Hello and welcome to Samuel's Fortress. I'm your host Kirill, and today we're going to be discussing the brand new census numbers out of Macedonia, specifically from the Republic of North Macedonia, which came out just this past week. Now, the census itself was conducted last year in 2021. However, it took a few months for the results to come out, so that's why we had to wait till pretty much the end of March 2022 to see the results of that census. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Pretty brief video. We're just kind of going to jump in and dissect these numbers, see what changes we've had since the last census, which was 20 years ago in 2002. So there's a pretty big gap between the two census numbers. So we'll be looking at those today, seeing what the new numbers are, how they compare to the old numbers, and all of that. So let's just dive in and take a look at the 2021 results. All right, so let's start here with the old census numbers from 2002 so we can compare the demographic change in Macedonia over the past 20 years. So here we can see, and here I'm just using the Wikipedia page for the demographic history of North Macedonia. If we scroll down, we will get to the 2002 census, and here we can see that 20 years ago we had a total population of just over 2 million. Of that 2 million, 1.3 million, or around 64%, were ethnic Macedonians, forming the largest ethnic group in the country, followed by Albanians with 500,000 people, or 25% of the population, making it the second largest ethnic group in the country, with all the other smaller ethnic groups, Turks, Romani, Serbs, following that. So if you want to compare that to the most recent census reports, all you have to do is kind of scroll down. And here you can see the 2021 results in this table. However, this table doesn't give us a whole lot of detail. So what I suggest you do is actually go directly to the government website for the State Statistical Office of the Republic of North Macedonia. And here we can see an article posted on March 30th with the most recent census figures from 2021. And here is a basic breakdown of the numbers. But if you want some more detail, all you have to do is scroll further down, and here you can see download tables. And if you download those tables, what you will see is a document. You'll get this document which has various different charts, tables, figures here, both in English and in Macedonian. So if you look up here, you'll see, for example, Table 10 MK. This is Table 10 in Macedonian. And then we can see here the same tables, but in English. So here we can see Table 10 EN, Table 10 English, same table, just in the English language. So let's actually start off with this table here. This is Table 2, which shows the total enumerated population, total resident population, and total non-resident population. So I have color-coded the totals here under enumerated, resident, and non-resident, just to make it easier for you to see this. And what we see here is that the total resident population and total non-resident population is being used to reach this total enumerated population in orange. Now, in my opinion, you can completely ignore the total enumerated population orange and the total non-resident population in red, and that is due to a couple reasons. First, it makes no sense to count non-residents in a census. A census is really meant to calculate the total number of people within a certain state at a certain point in time. And here specifically, we're trying to figure out how many people live in the Republic of North Macedonia in the year 2021. So it does not make sense to calculate people who live outside the Republic, even if they happen to hold Macedonian citizenship. These census figures kind of help government allocate resources for infrastructure, education, healthcare, and so forth. And these people who are non-residents of the state make no difference as far as how many resources should be dedicated to each of those items. And again, it simply distorts the number of people who should be reported in the census as residents, because that, again, is the point of a census, is to calculate the resident population. So here we see that the non-residents skewing the total resident population by adding figures, and then which brings us to this total enumerated population. The second reason why the non-resident population should not be considered in the 2021 census is because it is completely inaccurate. As we can see here, the first row is Macedonians, ethnic Macedonians, which according to the census, there are just shy of 64,000 ethnic Macedonians who are not residents of North Macedonia, and that number is way too low. And I'll back that claim up by going here to the website for the United States Census Bureau. Here we can see this is the official website, and if we kind of filter these results by people reporting, these are Americans who report ancestry, and here we can see the 2019 one-year estimate that there are roughly 70,000 Americans with Macedonian ancestry living in the United States. So this number alone, 70,000, is greater than the total Macedonian non-resident population. So again, this number here is supposed to represent all ethnic Macedonian non-residents, but we can see here that there's more than that number just in the United States. We're not even taking into account how many Macedonians live in Canada, Australia, other parts of Europe, which will, again, increase this number even further. So we can see that this, 64,000 is greatly this is a greatly underreported number based on the number of ethnic Macedonians living abroad. And we can see here that this is less than the number of ethnic Albanians living abroad, which here is being reported of just shy of 173,000. And the reason why we're seeing this discrepancy here is because a lot of ethnic Macedonians living abroad did not participate in the census, whereas a lot of ethnic Albanians living abroad did participate due to a push by Albanian political parties within Macedonia. So again, this number here, this total enumerated number in orange, is being affected by the total non-resident population, which is, first of all, illegitimate to be considered in a census to begin with, and second of all, the numbers are completely off. So again, it's my opinion that this should be ignored, the non-resident population. As a result of that, we should also ignore the total enumerated population and simply focus here on the total resident population in green. Now, these again are total raw numbers of population. If you want more of a percentage breakdown, go to table 3, and here we can see the total resident population by percentage breakdown. So if we see here, according to this table, we have just over 58% ethnic Macedonians who are residents of the country, and a little bit over 24% are ethnic Albanians. Now, if we compare that to the 2002 census, we will see that the Albanian number hasn't changed a whole lot. It went from 25.2 roughly to 24.3, so less than a percentage point drop. But we see a massive drop in the ethnic Macedonians from 74%, 74.2 to 58.4, so roughly 6% drop in population. And the reason for that is actually this number down here, 7.2%, who are persons from whom data are taken from administrative sources. So these are people who we know exist based on administrative records within the Republic of North Macedonia, but who did not participate directly in the census itself. And the reason why these people did not participate is because there was a movement to boycott the census by certain opposition parties who felt that by participating in the census, they were legitimizing an illegitimate government. A lot of the opposition parties do not view the governing coalition as legitimate, and they felt that, again, they were legitimizing the government by participating in the census, and that they felt, a lot of them felt that the numbers would be falsified and fabricated regardless of participation. So you had a small chunk of people who did not even participate in the census, and from what we can tell, this number is almost entirely, if not entirely, composed of ethnic Macedonians. So if we make that assumption, and I think it's safe to make that assumption, that the vast majority of the 7.2% are ethnic Macedonians, if we add this number to the 58%, then that brings us much, much closer to the 64.2 that was reported in 2002. Obviously, if we knock off the remainders, 58 plus 7 is 65%. So that is, again, much, much closer to the old number. And we don't really see much change here between ethnic Macedonians and ethnic Albanians between 2002 and 2021. Now, if we go here to Table 9, we will see the census results based on religious affiliation for the resident population. So if we look at this chart here, we will see that the Orthodox Christian population is roughly 46%. The Muslim population is 32%. And if we compare that to the 2002 census, here I'm using the CIA's World Factbook, we'll see that this is a bit of a drop for the Orthodox Christian population, which went from roughly 65% again to 46%, whereas the Muslim population stayed relatively stable from 33.3% to 32.17%, about a percentage point drop there. Now, the reason why we have such a dramatic drop in the Orthodox Christian population is actually because of this strange category here of Christians, which make up 13.21%. So again, why this category is strange is because we have Orthodox, we have Catholics. If we look here, we have Protestants, Evangelicals, Methodists, even Jehovah's Witnesses, but we have a category of Christians that is non-denominational, that is making up a significant portion of the total religious population, which did not exist in the prior census. So it's a little bit confusing what this category actually represents. As far as I know, there's no movement within Macedonia, non-denominational movement of Christians who are leaving the Orthodox Church to become just kind of vague, generic, non-denominational Christians. So it's unclear, what this category represents. If you want to be a little bit conspiratorial, you might say that the census had this extra category in order to confuse the Orthodox population and have some of them click Christian instead of Orthodox, and thereby lower the percentage of Orthodox Christians. Now, I think that's probably accurate, that a lot of Orthodox Christians simply chose Christians as opposed to Orthodox, maybe by mistake or what have you, due to the fact that if you add up these numbers, the 46, the 13, and this 7 here, who again are almost entirely ethnic Macedonians, and therefore the vast majority of those are almost certainly Orthodox Christians. If you were to add these numbers together, let's just call it 7, 13, and 46, you have 66%. Again, that's very close to this 65% from 2002. So if we are to assume that, again, Christians and the boycotters are almost entirely Orthodox Christians, we again reach a 2/3, 1/3 split in the population. And again, that kind of brings us back to the 2002 results. So not much of a religious change there. However, due to this weird category of Christians, if we look at, for example, the Wikipedia article, Religion in North Macedonia, we see in this chart here that has an updated figures based on the 2001 census results. We see that the Macedonian Orthodox population has dropped to 46%, with this weird 13-14% being added as other Christians. And this, again, I think I suspect it might be a little bit malicious and being done in order to drop Orthodox Christians out of the majority, still keeping them in the plurality, but again, dropping them out of the clear majority and making them much closer to the Islamic population. As we see here, 46 to 32 is much closer than the 65 33 percentage points here. So I think this is probably one of the most damaging aspects of the census, is this category of other Christians, which really throws off the number of Orthodox believers in the country. Whether this was malicious, what the point of this other Christian, this kind of non-specified, non-denominational category of Christians is for, I don't know why this was added. I think it's doing the Orthodox Christian group a disservice by kind of lowering this number by people who are actually Orthodox Christians but not counted as Orthodox Christians within the census. Now, one of the more anticipated results from this most recent census that people are kind of seeing, waiting to see what the figure was going to be, is the number of ethnic Bulgarians within the Republic of North Macedonia. As we can see here, back in the 2002 census, the ethnic Bulgarian population was quite low, about 1,400 people, or 0.07% of the population. And the reason why a lot of people, especially in Bulgaria, anticipated a huge jump in this number was because since that time, over the past 20 years, a large number of Macedonians received Bulgarian citizenship, received Bulgarian passports based on their Bulgarian ancestry and their declaration that they are ethnic Bulgarians. I don't know exactly what the number of people who received of ethnic Macedonians who received Bulgarian passports was during this 20-year period, but it was estimated somewhere 100, 200,000. Those are kind of the range I've seen. But let's take a look at the most recent census to see if we're anywhere near that number. And if we look here on Table 6, we see that the total number of ethnic Bulgarians in Macedonia only jumps up to 3,500, or 0.19, or 1/5 of 1 percentage points of the population. Now, although this is proportionally the biggest jump of any ethnic group, no other ethnic group more than doubles like the Bulgarian ethnic group did, again jumping from 1,400 to 3,500. That's, again, more than 100% increase. It's nowhere near that 100,000 or 200,000 figure that some Bulgarians were expecting, and that's really because a lot of the Macedonians, including family members of mine, received those Bulgarian documents simply because, a Bulgarian passport allows them to travel and work in the European Union a lot more easily than a Macedonian passport does, and that's due to the fact that Bulgaria is an EU member state and Macedonia is not. So, again, although you have to demonstrate that you have Bulgarian ancestry by showing documents from grandparents, great-grandparents, etc., that they were Bulgarian and therefore you have Bulgarian ancestry, a lot of those people don't really consider themselves ethnic Bulgarians anymore, and they consider themselves ethnic Macedonians. They only declare themselves to be ethnic Bulgarians, again, for economic reasons in order to gain easier access to the European Union. So I'm not at all surprised that this number is 3,500 as opposed to 100,000, 200,000, etc. But I think a lot of those people who were in Bulgaria who were expecting that jump, really not looking at the reasons why Macedonians were getting those passports realistically. Now let's wrap up by taking a look at one of the biggest shifts in the numbers from the 2002 to the 2021 census, and that is actually the number of total residents. We see here that according to the new census, we have a total of 1.8 million, and that is a 10% drop from the old census of 2 million. We see a loss of 200,000 people. Now, I guess the Bulgarians could make the argument that there's your missing 200,000 ethnic Bulgarians. They simply left the country due to various reasons, maybe ethnic persecution, stuff like that. I don't think that's really the case, and that's due to the fact that this is really a kind of Balkan-wide phenomenon of a 10% drop in population. So if we look here, This is an article from Balkan Insight, which I'm not promoting the website at all. I'm just kind of using their headlines to prove a point here. We see here that this article from March 30th of this year, when the census results were released, we have an article entitled North Macedonia Census Reveals Big Drop in Population. And then it states how over the last 20 years we saw a 9% drop in total population, which was not unexpected by the experts. And the reason why it was not unexpected was due to the fact that this is really, again, a Balkan-wide phenomenon. If you look at another article from Balkan Insight, this one from January of 2022, you see that Bulgaria's population shrinks by 11.5% in a decade. And we see here that the reason for that is low birth rates, high death rates, and migration as key factors behind the demographic decline. And another article from January of this year, same thing. Croatian population shrank by almost 10% in a decade. So I don't think that this 10% drop from 2 million to 1.8 million is the ethnic Bulgarians leaving the country. I think that's really just a result of, again, low birth rates, high death rates, and migration out of the country. I think the fact that Bulgaria and Croatia are EU members and are seeing this 10 to 12% drop means that if Macedonia became, this is just my perception, if Macedonia became a EU member state, we would see an even greater drop in population. I mean, we have a roughly 10% drop in population, even without Macedonians being able to easily live and work in Europe due to the fact that they don't have an EU passport. Now imagine that the Macedonians become EU members and receive passports that allow them to travel and live in Europe. I think we will see maybe even 20% declines in population. I wouldn't be surprised by that. So, which is actually one of the reasons why I oppose Macedonia's membership within the European Union. I think Macedonians will leave the country in massive numbers, and it will plunge the country into a huge demographic crisis. So that's pretty much the 2021 Macedonian census in a nutshell. Again, if you want to dig through these statistics a little bit more, simply go to the State Statistical Office website, download the tables, and then you can kind of go through and play with all these tables, figures, charts, and there's a lot more stuff here that we didn't get to. It wasn't really terribly relevant to the video, but again, you can see stuff broken down by municipalities, cities, all that kind of stuff. So let me know what you guys think about this new census. What do you think about that Christian designation as opposed to Orthodox? What do you think about the non-resident population being used, the number 3,500 for the number of ethnic Bulgarians in the country? So kind of give me an idea of what you guys think about all that in the comment section, and hope you enjoyed the video. We'll be back in a week or two with a new video. So until then, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.